So I know there's a lot of things to take care of today, and I'm so happy that you had an opportunity to join us today. Thank you very much. I will go through a brief presentation talking a little bit about our programs, especially in K-12 school education, uh, with an emphasis on administration and leadership. And then I'll take any questions that you might have about the program, about different types of things that we have, and hopefully we can have a good dialogue. So again, as I mentioned, I direct the Institute of School Leadership and Administration. I've been in this position now for 7 years, and I am actually a graduate of the Institute here at LMU. I'm also a graduate of the LMU's doctoral program, and so I feel like I've grown up in LMU and wouldn't want it any other way. So I'm going to talk a little bit about. Of course, that didn't work. 1 second. Okay. So a little bit about the mission and vision. I'm sure you've all done the homework and thought a little bit about why LMU. And the mission and goals are really encapsulated in 4 ways. Really about lifelong learning and excellence. Educating the whole person. When you think about a Jesuit institution who follows the Loyola and Marymount traditions, you're going to be thinking about the entire person. And so thinking about them as people and not just students, those that we work with and work for and support as people, and not just our employers or our students or our teachers. And the third is really the key to promote social justice. And social justice for all is very easily a buzzword, and we hear it a lot, but it's really about living that world and living that work, and ensuring that we're talking about it and making sure that aligns with everything that we do in our programs. We have a real framework that we work from, and you would see that as a student, you would see that in all of our programs, regardless of what level or what type of program you're in. And that's respect, educate, advocate, and lead. And all of those pieces are themes that we take in through our entire programs to ensure that we are really focusing on the Jesuit institution and our ideas of whole person and social justice. And we live these in everything that we do. Again, thinking about social justice and kind of our commitment to, we talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And these are the 3 pieces that we've come up with that really, we believe, speak to all things that we do in our schools. So really thinking about how are we understanding the systematic forms of oppression and racism? How are we understanding where it comes from, what those constructs are, who holds the power in those constructs, and then what are the ways that we can then start to dismantle things from the inside? How can we become those that want to do the work to ensure that those are being eradicated? Thinking about how do we lower the barriers and erase the lines that separate those that want to do but have been marginalized in our society so much that they cannot do. And so we want to make sure that we are focused on what it looks like to support all learners and all people. And then in the school itself, we want to focus on how are we including everyone. When we talk about inclusion, we're talking about bringing together faculty and staff, students, community, outside stakeholders, to ensure that everyone has a voice. And we work very hard to make sure that that is the case. And we want to make sure that you feel, as a student, that this is your program and not just ours. Some of the key pieces to our program, and this is where some of the details come in from our programs, is we really want to foster community. And So our cohorts are not large. They are a manageable size, I would say. Most of them will not go more than 20, so that we make sure that the professors and those that are supporting the program can really give that individualized attention. We want to make sure we get to know you and you get to know us and be able to really focus on how we can be invested in your success. We also hire and have professors that have worked in or are continuously working in the field. Even professors that are in our leadership programs who are full-time professors work on the sides on boards of schools, they consult in schools, they work to support leadership in schools. So they are not just sitting in their offices, they are on the ground as practitioners as well, focusing on learning and being a part of the community. And we make sure that translates into how the courses are taught. The courses are taught in a way to really bridge theory and practice, to really ensure that the work that's happening in the courses directly relates to the schools themselves, directly relates to the work that's going to be happening in the schools. So as an administrator or an administrative program, you will not just be reading about leadership. You will be demonstrating it, you will be applying it, and you will be assessing yourself in how you're growing in that work. We talk a lot about the process being the most important thing, as opposed to products or outcomes. We're looking for those that want to think through their work, think through their development. That metacognition is so important. Our programs are also offered to those we know that are working full time. And let's face it, more than full time positions if you're working in schools. So we offer evening classes for some programs. For the administration programs, we actually run them executive style, meaning that we come together synchronously at one time together about 6 or 7 times during a semester. So you will not be meeting with your cohort every single week. You will be doing it 6 or 7 times with work to be done in between. And we hold them on Saturday mornings. And the reason why we hold them on Saturday mornings is we all know it's very difficult to rid yourself of the day that you had at work after working a full day with students in schools, and then go and talk about systematic racism and how to dismantle white supremacy or work on an instructional program and vision at the end of a day at 7 o'clock at night when you are just thinking about how to recover for yourself, thinking about all the things you still have to do before you can sleep, and all the things you have to do tomorrow for work. And so when we did it Saturday mornings, we were able to have folks feel like they could totally be present. And that's really when the learning happens. And those classes run from about 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. You take 2 classes in a Saturday morning, and then you again skip a weekend and you'll come back the next Saturday, or sometimes there's 2 weeks in between, just depending on schedule. But we make it so it's conducive to those that are in the field working, so that this can be done and you can continue to do the work with quality that you are accustomed to in your schools. We also focus on making this accessible. And the one way that we make this accessible is through scholarships and tuition grants. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. So the administrative programs that we have, here's an overview of what we have available. The first and foremost is the administrative services preliminary administrative services credential. This allows you to be a principal, assistant principal, dean. In a lot of districts, it also is the required certificate for those that want to become coaches or any of those types of higher level positions, especially in a district, in the district setting. You would need the admin credential. You can also add an MA in school administration with 4 additional classes on top of your credential, and you can do those simultaneously as you do the credential. So we have a program That is a 3 semesters long, 18 units, that you would finish the credential, and then you can add MA units on top of that. Some other administrative programs that we have are a certificate in Catholic school administration, which you can also add the MA on it, an MA in educational leadership, which we will talk more, and that's a completely online program that is offered across the United States, in many states in the country, that you can join as well. There's a certificate in inclusive teaching, and then of course the EDD in educational leadership for social justice. So these are kind of the overview of the administrative programs or leadership programs that we have in the School of Education. So let's talk a little bit more about the program that I direct, which is the Administrative Credential Program. Obviously the key is to prepare leaders for success in schools, and a social justice leader who will push for equity and education for all students, and be the face of the community. And some of the requirements are you have to have at least 3 years of experience with a valid credential, whether that's a teaching credential, or even could be a pupil personnel services credential, a counselor. Our credential program is completely online, so there is no physical class to go to, which then allows us to draw. We have students all the way from Northern California, Central California, Inland Empire, which allows us for a very rich discussion about schooling and education and leadership in our classes. And we focus on ensuring that all of our candidates think about theory to practice and applying the work that happens. And through that, the way we do that is through field work and what's called the California Administrative Performance Assessment, which every educator who wants an administrative credential must pass. Think of it as kind of like the teaching TPEs or TPAs. You have to complete some tasks and upload them and get scored. And we have about a 95% passage rate on the first try for our cohorts. So we will prepare you. We have a course, 3 courses that actually support you. There's 0 units, and they're just to support you in preparing for the fieldwork and Cal APA. We want to make sure that you are set up for success. Again, like I mentioned, the MA in school administration, also you can add to it. That's a little bit more of a in-depth focus on educational leadership and school administration, and we can support you with that as well. This is the certificate in Catholic school administration. I'm not sure how many are here for this program. I know there is another open house on this as well, but there is a certificate that many folks who do the certificate then add the MA afterwards. So if you're interested in that, I can definitely take questions on that as well. Now, the Master's in Educational Leadership is different than the school administration. School administration is going to focus on running a school. The Master's of Arts in Educational Leadership is the completely online program across the country. And this actually gives you a more general understanding of educational leadership. So we have candidates who are Catholic school administrators, archdiocese, district folks. We've had school board members. We've had those that are nonprofit sector who work with education, who wanted to understand a little bit more about educational leadership. So we've had politician or the teams for politicians take our program before, so that they can support their candidate and their elected official around education. So this gives a little bit more general understanding of educational leadership and focuses on some of the other foundational aspects of leadership. This is a certificate in inclusive teaching. It's not necessarily, it's not housed in the institute, but it is something that we support as a for teachers who want to kind of move up into higher levels. This is definitely a powerful program that you can do. It is an online program and does provide scholarship, and I can take questions on that as well. And then, of course, our educational doctorate in educational leadership for social justice. It is a 3-year program, very innovative. There is an on-campus program and there's an online-only program. And so there are 2 different programs running at the same time to assist any candidates who would like to move into that area of focus. And of course, this is definitely the highest level of leadership in our program. It allows you to take higher level positions, especially when it comes to superintendency or teaching or things of that nature. Here are some of the general requirements, pretty standard for a graduate program. Transcripts, letters of recommendation. There is an admission interview as well. And then again, for the credential programs, you have to have verification of 3 years of experience or more with a valid teaching or service credential. And the CTC is pretty strict on those. So for this last year, our unit cost was $1,403 per unit. So for an 18-unit program such as the credential, it comes out to about $25,300 or so. However, we have committed in this next year to provide an $8,000 scholarship to anyone who does enter the program in the fall, and that is by virtue of being a part of the program. You don't have to qualify for it. It's not an additional application. It is the scholarship we are offering. So it brings it down to about 17,300 or so, which, especially for completely online programs, not only the convenience, but it does put us on par with some of the online programs like National and even some of the Cal States and UCs. The biggest difference that you see is, for example, UCLA's program is 2 to 3 years. Cal State Northridge's program is 2 to 3 years. Same with Cal State LA. Ours is 18 units. Ours is 3 semesters. It's a 1.5-year program because we streamlined it to ensure that you're getting exactly what you need and not things that won't focus on the work. The rigor is very high, but we talk about having a quality education from LMU on an educator's budget to ensure that you're actually getting what you need, and we're not asking you to pay large sums of money that won't be as beneficial to you. Especially for those of us like myself who has been a teacher, an administrator for a number of years, who also had to pay LMU tuition. So I think it's really important to be supportive of the new candidates coming through. There are some upcoming sessions. If you're interested in the Catholic School Administration, on March 29th and April 7th, there's some info sessions. And also March 9th, there is an info session for the EDD that you can also sign up for. And if you go to graduatestudies.lmu.edu and /portal/SOE_programs, you can sign up for any of the info sessions. But if you go to the search on LMU and you put in what you're looking for, sessions, you can also access it that way too. And I'm sure they'll be sharing these slides and they'll be sharing all types of things with everyone as well. I would encourage you to take advantage of some of the other presentations this evening. There are 3 other presentations tonight that are more general for LMU if they pertain to you. financial aid, graduate students, and then international students, if that pertains to you. Please feel free to gather as much information as you can. And then last but not least, our amazing supports Autumn Cunningham and Mary Frazier. This is their email, who can answer all kinds of questions when it comes to the programs and admissions process specifically, if you're interested in applying or have questions about applying. So I'm going to stop sharing at this moment. And I'm going to put my contact information in the chat. My email, if you have any additional questions or would like to talk about any of the programs or the administrative programs, I would be more than happy to answer an email. But I also would like to open it up to any questions that you might have at the moment, and can answer anything that you would like to know about the programs. Feel free.
Good afternoon, Dr. Ponce.
Yes, Michael.
Thank you. I'm actually new to California. I've been here for 25 plus years back in New York.
Okay.
I'm currently at a Catholic school here in Los Angeles. And I'm interested in getting my administration certificate.
Mm-hmm.
And I had started a leadership program at St. John's University back in New York, but I did not finish. Would I be able to transfer over my credits?
Definitely. We would have to take a look at the transcripts, obviously, and the courses, and see which ones align, because they have to align to the California state standard. So we'd have to do kind of a crosswalk there. Typically, we allow six units of credit to be transferred from another graduate program. So we would definitely take a look at that. I'm sure we'll find alignment. If it's an admin program, they're pretty similar. The one thing that I would have you applied to the CTC to get your credit, your years of service transferred to California yet?
No, I did not.
Okay, so that's a pretty simple step. It's just contacting the commission, the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing, and it would be to let them know your story, and then ask them how you can get your years of service in New York to be counted here in California, because in California you're going to need at least 3 years, which obviously you have way more than the 3 years, but they just have to recognize it in California through reciprocity. Okay. Pretty simple step. I put the website for CTC in the chat. You go on there, find the contact information for credentials. It's almost a no-brainer. They will charge you, I'm sure, a fee, which every government program likes to do that. It's not astronomical, but it's, they like to do that. But it's a pretty simple process, and we can help you if you run into any issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Hi, my name is Tia, and I have a question.
Sure.
Is it possible to do 2 programs at once? Because I'm also looking into, I want to be a counselor for young children and adolescents, but I was told that doing 2 programs probably couldn't happen, but I want to find a way for that to happen. So
Sure. It is. We've basically had the policy that the only other program that we would support, or we usually support, is those that are trying to clear their credential. So if they're clearing their credential while they're starting hours, we've been able to work with them, but a completely different graduate program, we would not. Number one, we wouldn't recommend, but number two, we haven't allowed that in our program because we've also had some that have asked to try to do the doctoral as well as get their admin credential, which seems to make a little bit of sense. But in terms of the hours needed and the amount of work that has to happen for all of these programs, it would be very, very difficult to for us to be able to make it a blanket okay to do so. In terms of the counseling, one of the things that come into play is the practicum hours. So the hours that you need to put together and work in schools and give the volunteer hours to that you need to get your degree and your certificate plays a lot into kind of your ability to be able to do another program. So yeah, for us, that wouldn't be a possibility.
Oh, okay, I see. Thank you.
Yes.
Hi,
Yes.
question.
Sure.
Good afternoon. So I'm interested in furthering my career in outside of the classroom, however, not necessarily as a principal.
Mhm.
So I was looking into working towards the master's in administration, which are more geared in the leadership area. I think a lot of them are transitioning. So you mentioned the other program that was 18 months as opposed to the administrative in K-12. So would that be, I guess the direction is probably, would that be a better program to look into rather than the K-12 administration? What's the biggest difference there?
That's a good question. There's not too much of a difference when it comes to like the whatever it is that you're looking to learn, right? So the master's is definitely going to have a little bit more rigorous curriculum. It's going to take a little bit more time than the credential. One of the things that's happening right now is that even leadership programs outside of the classroom, outside of the school, are requiring administrative credentials.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look in district positions, things such as that used to not need it, things such as directors of programs, instructional coaches, things of that nature. Now, when the applications come up, the positions are flown, they're saying administrative credential required. And so I think that's the biggest difference that you're seeing is that the administrative credential now becomes kind of the gatekeeper as part of the program. Now, as a candidate who finishes a credential program, obviously it's not a requirement for you to become a principal of a school. A lot of our candidates have their eye on something a little bit different. But you get what's called a certificate of eligibility, which means that the clock doesn't start ticking on you like clearing it or things like that until you actually get an admin position. But yeah, it's starting to become a gatekeeper for a lot of positions. And if you don't have to spend the money and the time for the MA, and you can do it in 18 months and still be eligible for those outside positions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm an educator, lifelong as yourself. You know, it'd be nice if we could afford to pay all of these things as an educator. So I try to be really honest that you may not need the MA if you're really looking to do some of those higher level positions in districts.
I mean, I'm with Los Angeles Unified, and it seems like most of them, though, are what you're saying is they're looking for both the master's and the credential, that administrative credential.
Yeah.
So, but you guys don't have it tied together, right?
We
you
do.
have to say them separately.
No, we actually have one that you can do together. So we have the administrative credential and MA in school administration.
Okay.
Which is still an MA, is still a master's level program. It will get you whatever you want to get. And that's 14 units more than the administrative credential. So you would basically be parallel because some of the classes double for both.
Okay.
So you
That's
can finish it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably more of what I'm looking for.
Sure. Yeah, we have many candidates that do the same thing.
Okay. Thank you. I will probably try to reach out through email and
Please do.
contact you. Okay, great. Thank you so
please do.
much.
Of course.
Sorry, Dr. Ponce, one
Sure.
more question, actually piggybacking off of the previous question. You had a slide, I believe that was the program with the 32 credits that you
Yes,
referred to.
That's correct.
Could you put that up by
Sure.
chance again? Appreciate it.
No problem. Of course, I'll have to find it. It's in here somewhere.
No problem.
Oh, wait, it stopped. Sorry. Let me do that again. Let's see. This one here? Does this talks about the 32
yes. This is the one you're referring to right now.
That's correct.
May and School Administration builds on the credential coursework, etc. That's what we were just talking about. Yes.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's parallel.
Okay.
Yeah. So those 18 units you take as part of the admin credential count towards the MA. So then we're allowed to just add on the additional courses to finish the MA. Some candidates actually have been able to finish both in 18 months, months. It just means that you'll be taking courses in the summertime, the summer sessions. Some said, you know what, I don't want to put that much pressure on myself. I'm just going to do one more semester, which they've been able to do as well. But that's totally up to you. We have programs for any option that you would like.
Okay, excellent. Now, looking at the requirements, you don't require GRE or any tests of that nature?
No GRE for our programs, and I'll go to that slide too. I had a question in the chat as well. These are the required. No GRE for our programs. The doctorate, yes, not for the master's or credential. Valid teaching credential or services credential like the PPS, and a verification of 3 or more years with that credential. I will also say that intern year does count as well. So if anyone was part of Teach for America, for example, or an intern credential, that year as an intern also still counts towards 3 years if that applies to anybody.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then you have some of your typical things like a person's, statement of intent, your transcripts, all things that, happen in typical graduate programs. And we have a dedicated office as part of the program. Our institute has a dedicated graduate advisor who works with you on your courses. So those of you, like for example, Michael, if you wanted to transfer units, she would work with you to make sure that they all align, and I would sign off on it. And then she also helps you with what classes to take and what your program looks for. And then also we have a program coordinator who also will help you with things like financial aid, or if you have a question on parking, or if you have a question on internet things, anything like that. She is kind of the hub, the go-to person. I go to her many times as well. So we have people that are very focused on making sure that you feel successful.
Good afternoon. I had a quick
Yes.
question. You were talking about the executive style of meeting on Saturday mornings from 8 to 12, and then
Yes.
that the credential program is online. So is that online classes from 8 to 12 on Saturday mornings?
That's
then?
correct.
Okay.
That's correct. It's via Zoom, and you take 2 classes in the morning, so it's not 4 hours of one person, and it's 2 classes. And our charge is to ensure that those classes are about learning experiences, not lecture and sit and get. That's as a student in the program, I would not have wanted that. It's just not, we know as in terms of just teaching and learning, that just doesn't work, especially when it comes to adult learners. So we do experiential work. We do a lot of scenario work where we bring scenarios and you work in small groups to solve issues, problems of practice. We do small group presentations. We do, chunk and chew and all of those kinds of, I was a 5th grade and 6th grade teacher most of my career. And if you don't keep things moving, then, you're in trouble. So I do the same thing and I bring that same philosophy. So you come together about 6 or 7 times synchronously online from 8 to 12 with a break in between. And then the off weekends, you're basically preparing for that next Saturday online. So there's readings, you might be doing, small group activity, something to prepare. And then that next Saturday, you dive deep into the coursework and apply that work in the synchronous sessions, if that makes sense.
Thank you so much for the clarification.
Sure. Any other questions? I'm here, so no, not a problem. So if there are no other questions, feel free to explore other programs. If you have any other questions, I'll be here in the room. But you have my email. Please feel free to email me. We can definitely set up a one-on-one. We can, but we also are dedicated to walk you through any of the processes, if the application process or anything like that. We will definitely make time to work there.
I actually have one more question.
Sure.
If no one else has any. So admissions is rolling, correct?
It is.
Okay. And so once you submit all of the application requirements, LMU reaches out as far as scheduling the interview if you're given the opportunity.
That's correct. I will be the one to actually reach out to you.
Okay.
I like to take that personal touch. And again, we have quite a few students, but I think it needs to be individualized, and I want to make sure that I support everyone. And so I will reach out, do the interview. Interview takes between 30 and 45 minutes. It's not a long interview, and it's based really on your letter of intent,
Okay.
and ideas around social justice. And we'll talk through. A lot of it is just finding the puzzle pieces and which group you work better in, and look forward to connecting with those folks.
Great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Now there is a priority deadline, April 1st, just so you have that on your calendar. And that's where we can guarantee everything in terms of a space, but also guaranteeing, as long as you qualify, but also guaranteeing the scholarship, the $8,000 scholarship. After April 1st, it usually will be there, but I can't guarantee it. If the money, runs out, or we, close the cohorts, then that's basically it for the year.
Great.
Usually
Good to know. Thank you.